All right, let's get right into it. What we're about to explore isn't some far-off speculative fantasy. We're talking about a structural shift that's already in motion. We're going to break down the end of scarcity as we know it and the completely new economic reality that's emerging in its place.
This quote right here, this is the key to everything. It's not just an opinion. It's a conclusion driven by hard data. You see, for centuries, all of human progress has been tied to one simple thing: how much energy we could get our hands on and how much it cost. But for the first time in history, that fundamental equation is flipping on its head. And that flip is triggering a cascade that is going to redefine everything else.
So, to really get where we're going, we first have to understand where we are right now. Think about our current global system. It's not that it's broken exactly, it's more like it's an old operating system. Like trying to run today's apps on a 10-year-old phone. It was designed brilliantly for a world of scarcity, but now it's being forced to run on the hardware of abundance, and the system is starting to crash. And that brings us to a really crucial reframing of the word scarcity. It's not just about a natural lack of stuff. It's a design principle. Our economic models, our labor markets, all our core institutions, they don't just deal with scarcity, they actually need it to work. The whole idea of competition, of value, even of social control, it's all built on the core assumption that there just isn't enough to go around. Okay, so look at this. On the left, you've got the pillars of the world we know. Industrial labor, for example, kind of relies on the scarcity of jobs to keep things running. Competitive markets, they evolved specifically to figure out who gets what when there isn't enough. And resource extraction, well, that whole game is based on stuff being finite and worth fighting over. But on the right, that's where we're headed. A world where those foundational rules just don't apply anymore. So what's the catalyst? What's the one thing that's actually breaking this old system? It's the single most important economic event of our lifetime, the collapse of energy costs. This right here, this is the tipping point, and there's no going back. The change we're talking about is absolutely fundamental. For 2 centuries, we've run the world on extraction energy. We dig up a finite stock of fuel that just gets more expensive and creates massive geopolitical conflict. But now we're moving to flow energy. We're not digging anymore. We're harvesting the infinite, ever-present flows of the planet, like sunlight. It's a completely different game with completely different rules. And please, don't think of this as some future projection. This is happening right now. Just look at the data. It is absolutely undeniable. Solar power is now the cheapest form of electricity in all of human history. This isn't about politics or environmentalism anymore. It's just simple economics. The old energy system is becoming structurally uncompetitive. It can't win. And this brings us to the really crucial concept, near zero marginal cost. Think about it. Once you build a solar panel, what's the cost of the fuel? It's zero. The sun doesn't send you a bill. The cost of producing one more unit of energy drops to basically nothing. Now, how can a system that's designed to manage scarcity possibly function when its most important commodity becomes essentially free to produce? It can't. And this whole transition, it isn't random. It follows 3 very clear, predictable patterns. First, the cost collapse, which we just saw. That destabilizes the old system. Second, you get decentralization. We move from a few giant power plants to millions of smaller nodes, rooftops, community grids, you name it. And third, our entire civilization's energy diet shifts from eating a finite stock to harvesting an infinite flow. It's a clear, evolutionary process. Okay, so energy gets super cheap and abundant. Why is that such a game changer? Well, remember our opening thesis? Energy is the master commodity. When it becomes abundant, it doesn't just stay in the energy sector. It creates a ripple effect, a cascade of abundance that flows through every other essential part of our society. Let's look at how this works. In the old scarcity model, energy comes from fossil fuels, water is limited by where you live, and food needs huge amounts of land. But once you have near zero cost energy, boom, you can power desalination anywhere, creating decentralized water systems. And with that cheap energy and water, you can power local vertical farms to create abundant food. You see, each layer of abundance unlocks the next one. And the cascade just keeps going. Abundant energy makes all these other things economically viable. Things that used to seem like science fiction. Low-cost desalination, automated vertical farms, 3D printing entire buildings, running the AI data centers that coordinate everything, powering whole fleets of autonomous electric vehicles. All of these incredible technologies were fundamentally bottlenecked by the cost of energy. As that cost collapses, their true potential is finally unleashed. So, All of this leads to a pretty logical conclusion. If our old operating system was designed for scarcity, what does the new operating system designed for abundance look like? Well, it has a name: the utility economy.
Now, this isn't an ideology. This isn't about capitalism versus socialism. It's just a structural necessity. When the cost of producing the absolute essentials of life falls towards zero, it actually becomes way more efficient to provide them as universal utilities. Like we do with roads or clean air, than it is to try and ration them through complicated markets. It's just a smarter, more stable way to run a high-tech civilization.
And let's be really clear here. This doesn't mean markets go away. Not at all. In fact, it does the opposite. It elevates them. When you no longer have to worry about the market providing your next meal or keeping the lights on, the market is freed up to focus on what it does best: empowering creativity, innovation, art, exploration. Human potential is finally uncapped from the constant burden of just surviving. So here's the bottom line. This transition to abundance, it isn't something we get to vote on. The collapse in energy costs has already locked it in as a technological and economic reality. So the critical question for all of us, and especially for anyone in a position to make policy, is no longer if this is going to happen, it is. The only question that matters now is, how are we going to design the systems to manage it? That is the defining challenge of our generation.